Innovation. It doesn't matter how good your ideas are if you can't get anybody else to believe in them. And often that comes down to the pitch. So we're very lucky today to have one of the best in the business. She's a TEDx speaker. She works with startup companies throughout Sweden, and she also coaches some of the executives here at Telia. So please welcome from Eliza Communication, Jenny Lindblad.
Hello. You know that one of the biggest fears that people have is public speaking. Actually, before death. You probably heard that before. And that was me for many, many, many years. I was so scared of public speaking, I could actually not eat for 24 hours prior to a presentation. At university, when you present quite a lot, that's kind of a problem. So one day I decided enough is enough. And I created a very simple 5-step model that I will show you here today, how to not only get rid of your fears, but also how to create the perfect pitch. But let me bring you back to the beginning, where it all started. It's 2008, and I started a new job at the Ericsson studio. As you can see, it was a pretty cool job, and the first day I had to learn how to ride the Segway. Very exhausting, I can tell you. It was a really, really fun job. I was 1 out of 5 presenters in Ericsson. I don't know how many of you have been to Ericsson studio? Okay, so for you who haven't, it's like Ericsson's exhibition center. It's where they bring all their VIP customers, everything from royalties, president, ambassadors, top-level executives, students, ministers. And they had approximately 6,000 visits per year when I worked there. And I was 1 out of 5 presenters. That's throwing you in there with your fear, right? Pretty directly. Very often I got booked 1 hour with the customer. And then last minute they called me and said, "Hey, Jenny, we're really, really sorry, but you only have 5 minutes. What do you do then? You look like this. And then, very, very quickly, you make sure that you make your presentation much, much shorter. You start creating a pitch, a teaser, a cliffhanger, because you want the customer to come back. You want them to come back for that second meeting, because that's the goal. I mean, come on, no one is going to buy your product after the first meeting, and no investor is going to say, "Hey, Jenny, I'll invest $100 million in you just after one meeting." No, the purpose is to get that second meeting, and in that meeting to get the next meeting, and in that meeting to get the next meeting. You get it, until you get the goal, or the deal, or the money. Today I work mainly with startups, and I still look like this. How many in here have heard, "Oh, my startup is so amazing, it will sell itself"? I get furious. I get really, really furious. It's very, very naive. And being a mentor in different programs and seeing quite a few startups every week, I can tell you there are so many that I think has probably a pretty great idea, but they don't get into that second meeting because they don't know how to communicate it. And what makes me even more frustrated is when I meet international investors and they say, you know, in Sweden, they have really, really great ideas. They have terrific companies. They have amazing teams, but they suck when it comes to pitching. So let's focus on this 5-step model that is so easy so that everyone in here will be able to create their perfect pitch. Number 1 is the goal. You need to make sure which direction you are going. What is my main goal? Is it an investor pitch? Who do I want to invest in my company? Is it a sales pitch? Who do I want as my customer? Is it a pitch to your partner for that ski trip that you have longed for such a long time? Or maybe it's a pitch for a second date? Or maybe it's a pitch for your manager going through with that innovation idea. Whatever your goal is, it had to be crystal clear and very, very simple. Number 2, it's not about you. The you dropped out. But it's not about you. I'm sorry to say, but it's not. I know that you have all these fantastic features that you want to tell about your product or your innovation, and especially all those tiny nitty-gritty things that only you know about. But then you have the customer. And what he wants to know or she wants to know is quite different. And unless you can get them two together, you will never have the customer's attention. You probably heard the expression, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Every time you go out and buy something, it needs to add a value to you before you purchase it. It's the same thing with customers. You need to start thinking, what's in it for them? What do they want to know that you want to tell them about? So the bigger you can make this part where they interact together, the better. The more likely you will get that sale. So how can you get this information? Well, by research. Before every single visit that I had at Ericsson, and I had approximately 7 visits per day, I did research on every single customer. Who is coming? Is it a male? Is it a female? What are their age? Do they have any children? What religion do they have? What are their hobbies? And then I twisted the pitch, and I made it personal. Why do you want to make a pitch personal? Well, if there's one thing us people remember, it's stories. We even remember the stories from when we were small children. I still remember Cinderella. I've stopped dreaming about being Cinderella for a couple of years ago, but I still remember the story. So let's say that I would pitch to Johan's innovation. I would start out by thinking, what's in it for him? How can I attract him? Maybe I can start thinking about how the end user will use our products. Then I would probably build a story with a character. The character would be male because it's easier for Johan to relate to since he's a man. He would probably have studied economics, come from a small town in Sweden, like living abroad, loving cultures, having great ambitions, and in his spare time he plays football. That took me 5 minutes yesterday on LinkedIn and Facebook to find out those things about Johan. It's such an easy trick how to make something more personal. Maybe I wouldn't add all of them, because then he might think that I'm stalking him, and that could be a very, very bad thing for your pitch. Okay, so that was number 2. Let's then go into how to build the story itself. You need to start really, really strong. You need to start with that hook, something that will draw your audience in. If you're solving a problem, tell us about the problem. I started telling you how I was more scared of public speaking than death. Quite dramatic, but it worked. I draw you in, I got your attention, you laughed, some of you smiled. I saw some faces that recognized the feeling. So start strong, but keep it short, because then comes the important part, and that's the content. This is your unique selling point. What is so wow about what you have created? What is so unique with the thing that you have done? If there's one thing people should remember, this is the thing. This is also where you throw in your top 3 features, and I personally favorize when you put the most interesting one at the top, while you still have the customer or the audience attention. Because then, as you can see, the attention goes down. And that's totally fine, because the brain needs to have a mini break before you come into the end. So you really want to end on a high note, on a positive note. And what could be better to talk about the vision? What will my product do for society? Imagine what we can do here together if we all put together our minds. Then, in order to make it really, really simple, let's connect the dots, add a smile and an eye, and you will always remember my fish model. Since I started my company a few years back, I've coached more than 200 startups. And I'm always using this model. This was number 3 out of 5. Number 4. Are you still with me? Fantastic. Number 4 is preparation, preparation, preparation. And I just love this quote. If you want me to speak for 2 minutes, it will take me 3 weeks of preparation. If you want me to speak for 30 minutes, it will take me a week to prepare. And if you want me to speak for an hour, I'm ready now. A lot of people think that giving a short presentation is super simple, but it's actually the other way around. So if you're creating a pitch, make sure that you practice, practice, practice. I heard quite a few times with people saying, oh, I don't need to practice because I'm doing so good anyway on stage. I always get this positive feedback. And fantastic, good on you. But imagine how good you could be with actually some practice. I heard that Steve Jobs, I mean, here we're talking Steve Jobs, the CEO, the ex-CEO of Apple. Before every single keynote, after his script was done, he locked himself in a room with no computer, no phone for 3 days, just preparing. I mean, come on, this is Steve Jobs. No computer, no phone for 3 days. First of all, I think that's super respectful to his audience, that taking their time to listen to him. And second, I'm starting to think maybe that could be the reason why he's still considered to be one of the world's greatest speakers in history. Number 5, last but not least, it's passion that got you here. It's passion that drives your innovation. It's passion that drives your idea. Show it to us. Show it in your language, in your body language, in your preparations, in your presentations. Let us feel that passion. And while you're at it, don't forget to have fun, because it's fun. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you so much. That was great. And I have a friend that might have gotten confused, like with some people coming on stage, off the stage. So sometimes bloopers happen. And for the sake of my friend, how would you react to that? How do you pick yourself up when you make a mistake? Because they do happen for my friend.
Yeah. Well, I think that I made quite a few mistakes during this presentation. How many did notice? No one. So I think, oh, yeah. So I think that as long as you don't, feel comfortable with you and the message that you're sharing. And no one is perfect all the time. And that's what makes us so unique and so special.
Thank you so much. We also have opened the Mentimeter, or any questions from the audience?
I need you some.
Bring it on.
Exactly.
They're popping up on Mentimeter now. No, that was last.
I have here one that is life is a pitch, so I heard. And I was wondering if you have any advice from those unexpected pitches. Sometimes they happen that you don't have the 3 weeks to prepare, you just have that boss on the elevator, you go in and it's like, okay, this is the time to present my idea. So how do you prepare for those moments when it's unexpected?
I think that my best advice that I learned during my years when I presented the most was to smile. Because when I smile, what happens then? Let's see. Look, people start smiling back at me. The hostility goes down. People are more open to me. And I gain a few seconds. So every time I got nervous, I smiled. Every time I didn't know the answer of a question, I smiled. And I actually gained a few seconds. And people were positive towards me. Because it's really nice when people smile to each other. Might sound very, very silly, but it worked every single time. In the beginning, it's a little bit hard, but just practice.
So there is no such thing as awkward silence. Just give it a smile.
Just give it a smile.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions?
I think Ivo has one up in the back.
Can we get him a mic? I know you can do loud, but we need the people on the stream to hear you.
Exactly. He's going to hold it way far from me. Thanks, Jenny. If anybody would like to start becoming better at pitching presentation, so where do I start? What do I do tomorrow?
Here's my contact info.
No.
No, I'm just joking.
There it
I
is.
think, remember the fish model
Yeah,
and the 5-step.
yeah. But what do I do tomorrow? That was my question. What should I do tomorrow? Where would I start?
Why wait until tomorrow? You can start right now.
Okay.
You start with the goal. What's my aim? What's the goal of the pitch? And then you continue from there.
Good. And practice, practice.
And practice, 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 yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one question from Mentimeter, a curious mind asking you, how long did you prepare for this presentation?
I prepared for quite some long time. I spent, how I practice, I think maybe after a couple of years doing this, it goes faster and faster and faster. I often utilize, or every time I utilize my model, and then I actually lie in bed and think. When I can't sleep, I think about everything, and then when the time comes up, then I just sit down and I write it. And then I go in and practice, practice, practice.
Great, thank you so much.
So I probably locked myself in for the last 2 days and practiced and rewrote it and practiced and rewrote it.
We are so grateful, and we can definitely feel that you were super prepared because it went really seamlessly. So
Oh,
thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank
Round
you
of
for having me.
applause. Thank you.
Thank you.